Finishing a dissertation is like literally a crazy thing to do. It's the capstone project for many DMA and PhD programs. You know, everyone does it slightly differently. Regardless of whichever path that you take or whichever degree or whatever thing, it takes a ton of work. One of the aspects of this that is like one of the harder things about doing it is that it's highly likely that you've never done anything to the scale of a dissertation before. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. You know, most of us will have written like a 10-page paper, like a musicology class. Okay, here we go, do my research and use my, 20 resources or whatever. And then it's like, okay, all right, you've done that. Now do that 10 times the size of that, 20 times the size of that. 200-page dissertation isn't that crazy of a thing. It's like a huge level scaling. All of a sudden, wow, oh, this is like a completely different ballgame than really anything that you've ever done before. Having just finished my dissertation a few months ago, the process is still very fresh on my mind. And I want to make a guide for you if you are ever someone who is going to be doing a dissertation in the future, or you are currently doing one. I want to tell you exactly what worked for me, what super did not work for me, and the things that I wish I had done differently. That way, when it's your time to go through them, you'll have a guide to work with that kind of tells you what's coming up next. My name is Dave. I'm a composer, and this is how you do a composition dissertation the right way. The first kind of most basic decision that you need to make is what type of dissertation are you going to do? Different schools do this in a different way. For example, and we're talking about the dissertation, we're talking about the actual document. Some schools will let you just do a piece and hey, that's cool, that's wonderful. Many places will not have you do that, and instead it will be a musical analysis of a large-scale piece that you write. They kind of go hand in hand. That's kind of what I did at UM. I wrote my dissertation was a musical analysis and paper on a large symphonic work for wind ensemble that I wrote called Stellar Echoes. That's like the dissertation. So I would like the piece, I think of it as my dissertation piece, but it's not really the dissertation. That's more the analysis of it. So there's a musical analysis of a larger piece that you write. There's also a music theory paper where you take a particular theoretical lens and you analyze someone else's work or a particular trope or whatever it is that you're going to do, where your paper is really focused on like your theoretical knowledge and your theoretical expertise. There's also a musicological paper where you're kind of tackling something in a more historical vein rather than an analytical one or a creative one. There's all kinds of different ways to do this. Different schools will accept it in different ways. For the purposes of this particular video, I'm going to focus on the process as if you were writing a large composition and then writing an analysis of it. The process for a music theory guided paper or a musicology paper is basically the same as doing a composition. Instead of writing and orchestrating and revising and all that, you'd be reading and analyzing and researching. The first step, if you're doing the composition route, is deciding the ensemble and the proportion. Depending on your school, there may be very different requirements for this, and you want to get crystal clear about that. Like, for example, like a school might be very cool if you write a large-scale string quartet. Like, okay, it's only 4 players, but it's 45 minutes long, and it's got multimedia and all this stuff. That might be fine, where other schools might be like, no, we want like a 20-minute orchestra piece or whatever. You just need to be very clear about like what it is that they are expecting from you. So that being said, I would recommend being strategic, be practical, and do something that could happen. For example, like a larger wind ensemble piece, in my view, kind of has a slightly greater chance of being performed than like a large orchestra piece. It's because there's more, wind ensembles tend to be a little more friendly towards newer pieces, but you never know what can happen. Regardless of whether you choose to just purely go the practical route or not, pick something that you are passionate about. There is something to be said for doing a piece that you can't realistically do in any other way. Like, oh, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm doing a grand opera because when else am I going to get to do one? I can see that. Just be aware that sometimes the larger the proportion, the chance of you actually getting it performed in the future can sometimes go down. And that's an individual thing. If you want to do something that's really personal and really kind of huge in its proportions, and that's exciting to you and that fills you with energy, then do it. Hey, I'm not going to stop you. But if you're not sure, pick something practical and go from there. Now, here's the thing that you have to keep in mind is that most schools are going to have some type of policy on double dipping. Schools get weird about this. So when I say double dipping, like a lot of places aren't going to be, most places aren't going to be cool with you having already done previous work on something and then it becoming your dissertation project. It kind of depends on the context, right? My chair was never going to be like, oh, I started this, tuba concerto and I might do that. I started in 2020 and now I'm going to finish it here. No, because you've already done the work and that wasn't part of your proposal and it hadn't gotten officially approved and we're not going to do that. So the trick though with that, the double dipping, is that if no one knows about it, then no one knows about it. So if you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this larger piece, and you wanted to go ahead and start working on it, and you just didn't tell anyone, that's your business. That's your private matter. But as soon as you tell people and it becomes part of the official process, they could get weird about it. So the best rule of thumb is to, get your proposal together, which I'll talk about in a second. And then once you get official approval for the project, that's when you really start in on it. You can do some preliminary planning and things like that ahead of time too. Next thing is you need to get all of the deadlines set. Oh my God, this is like the most crucial thing. You need to work backwards. You need to know when the final submission date is. It needs to be like burned in your mind. You need to know when that is. You need to know when all the forms are due, because every school is going to have stupid little forms that you have to submit that your committee members do and whatever. You need to know when the edits are due. You need to know your defense timeline. How early do they expect you to turn in your dissertation for review? And then you also need to have same thing for your proposal. And then also you need to have there's not going to have a deadline for this, but this is a self-imposed thing, but your composition completion timeline. When are you finishing the piece, definitively finishing it? It's done. It's there so that you can then write an analysis on it. That's a crucial thing. You need to have all the deadlines clearly listed so that when you don't get taken by surprise. What is not fun is to be in the middle of juggling all these classes and doing all this different stuff, and then, oh crap, I missed the deadline for whatever thing, and then it impacts whether you get to graduate that semester or not. It can really suck if you miss something, and it's just not it's not a good place. And the best thing to do that is to just be aware of everything, make a list. I usually will do a Google Sheets deadline thing where it's clear what's happening and what I'm doing. You need all the deadlines set, ready to go. They're in your planner, wherever you look, however you organize yourself. It's all there so that you can't miss it. Don't skip that. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to gather all of the templates, and you're going to gather all of the resources that you're going to use for this particular dissertation. Talk to whoever your chair is and get a reference dissertation, one that they have worked on with a student that came before you, so that you can kind of see what to expect. I know for many of us, I've never read a dissertation before. Why would I read a dissertation? Why? Unless it's assigned to me in some kind of music theory class or something, I'm not going to do that. You need to kind of have an idea of, what are they looking for? So that was supremely helpful to me, being able to read a dissertation and see, this is how they broke this up. They broke up this thing into a chapter. I didn't even know that was on the menu. So have one, get a little bit familiar with it, and you can use it to kind of say, this is the format. Because ideally, if they've done it at your school previously, they're going to use the same format that you will be using. It's just a good idea to kind of have a reference of this is what this thing should look like. Most schools are going to have a resource page that has all the templates. For example, they'll have one for your title page. Generally speaking, they'll have one for table of contents, all of that different stuff. You need to know what kind of format they want to use for references, whether it's an MLA place or Chicago or whatever. I do recommend getting access to some kind of, most of these are available on their websites, but an easy follow guide. I have this Turabian one that we used at UM. I just would use that all the time. I have that as a bookmark so that it's just there. I know how to do this when I have to come up with sources and cite. When you create the document in this first little bit, keeping in mind, this is all pre-proposal stuff. This is all pre-working on the actual dissertation. Set up the pagination. Pagination is just the dumbest thing, but it's how the page numbers work. I didn't even know this was an issue or a thing to think about. But if you're going to make this in Microsoft Word, you need to know how the school has it done. UM had this video. I've watched that video too many, an uncomfortable amount of times. Whoever made that on Word, dude, come on. Get that set up so that you don't have to worry about that. Every time you have your chapters set up, it's all the different page number things are already kind of set and cooking for you. You don't have to panic, do that the last day. You're going to need to get the Bach Font. The Bach Font is fun. It's basically just a way of when you write in an academic paper, instead of using for example, B flat, instead of just using a lowercase b, you actually use the flat symbol from music, or a sharp rather than a hashtag. It just makes it look more professional and has other things. It's super easy to download. You can watch a little video on it. It's got all the stuff on the website, but Bach Font, that's what you're going to do. Now, I also recommend in this early stage, go ahead and compile a list of resources that you're going to use for your bibliography. quickly. Remember, you don't have to have all the quotes and stuff at this particular stage, but like it's helpful for you to know, okay, I'm going to reference these particular books that I already know. I recommend using things that you've already done in different theory and musicology papers and things like that previously. It doesn't matter what you bring up as long as it's clearly connected to what you're doing. So use resources that you're already familiar with and then find new things in your library that fit what it is that you're doing. That's where I would go from there. Use things that you're already familiar with. Like I know for mine, like I immediately went back to, a symphonic. I used a resource that I had in a Brahms symphonies class that I took like my junior year of undergrad that I still had. Yeah, I used that. And that was like an immediate thing. Oh, I'm talking about symphonies. Oh, okay, well, I'm going to reference that. It's already on the list. That's one less to worry about. So go ahead and get that stat. At least 20. You're probably going to need more. You should get clarity from your chair. How many are you expecting to see? Get that early because you want that just kind of there. Oh, I already know I'm going to be using this. I already know I'm going to use this chapter. I'm already going to know. Even if you don't know exactly the exact quote or whatever it is, you just need to have an idea. That's just going to build you up from there. In terms of these, if you're running out of ideas to do, like let's say like, oh, I'm writing this piece and like I'm the author of the piece and it's the analysis is kind of what I say I did. It can be hard to think about what kind of resources you're going to have. So what I would recommend doing, what helped me, is the composers that you have influenced you, look up their biographies or other analytical papers on theirs, because then you can talk about how their music is structured. Like for me, Lutoslawski is a big influence for me. I love his music, and I use some, it's very brief, but I use some aleatoric counterpoint in my piece. And so there's a paper on him about like dramaturgy in music and this sort of like that system the way he's thinking about narrativity in terms of music, that was very helpful to me. And again, it's just one little quote, but then you can connect it in a different way. So that's what I'd recommend is the composers who've directly influenced you, look at things that have been written about them, and then you can use that as a way to connect it to your music. That's going to be it for this one. This is a 4-part series. So our next video is going to cover how to build a committee. It's going to be how to build your proposal together, and it's going to be about completing the music. So that's all very, very important. And then the third part is going to be about actually finishing the document. So writing it, breaking that whole crazy process down. And then lastly, we'll talk about the defense and go from there. And then many of the lessons that I've learned from that process. If you want to support the channel, please consider liking this video. If you found anything helpful in it, that really helps me reach a lot of people. So thank you. And if you haven't subscribed, I try and release videos every single week. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, please come along. Thanks so much for your support. We will see you in the next one. Cheers.